They threw a house party after the service and reached for my son's account. I checked the time, smiled, and said, "Give me 15 minutes." They didn't know who was already on their way. The lilies were still fresh on the church altar. When my sister turned our repast into a soundtrack, by 6 o'clock, the quiet after-service murmurs had become clinking ice. Red cups, and a Bluetooth speaker was trying to outsing grief. Casseroles steamed on the counter beside a sheet cake that said, "Celebration of Life" in blue icing. As if punctuation could make it gentler, it was my husband's service. He'd been gone 12 days. Our son, Micah, 5 years old and small for his age, had fallen asleep on the couch under his father's hoodie, face turned into the sleeve like it still held a heartbeat. I rinsed a plate. I didn't cry. I counted forks' faces. Minutes. My mother-in-law appeared at my elbow with a guilt smile and a whisper meant to sound like care. "Alina, sweetheart, about Mika's account. Sitting in a bank helps no one. We can manage it for you. For the family." Behind her, my brother-in-law folded a program into a tight square. "Life insurance shouldn't just languish," he added, glancing toward the hallway where my purse and a narrow leather binder waited on the console table. The binder I'd carried to every hospital meeting. The binder with tabs, policy, 529, trust, attorney. My father cleared his throat from his chair. The one he'd claimed like a captain. "Roof needs fixing before winter. If we move quickly, we can avoid penalties." Penalties? For a child's future. I wiped my hands on a towel and turned the music down one notch. "Micah's account is set," I said. "It's protected. Protected by paperwork." My sister-in-law laughed. "Brittle. Honey, paperwork bends. Not this paperwork." 2 hours earlier, I'd stood in our bedroom closet with the door closed and called Ms. Collins at Evergreen Trust and Fiduciary. She'd answered on the first ring. "I'll come," she said. "Keep your binder close and your answers short." We set the time. 6:45. She asked for the address. I sent it with a photo of the front porch light so she'd know which door. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments about which country you're watching this video from. "Enjoy the story, sweetheart," my mother-in-law pressed, lowering her voice as if that made it holy. "A child doesn't need that much. We'll hold a portion. Emergencies happen." "An emergency," my brother-in-law said, "like a family car. Or dad's meds. We're not asking for all of it. Just access." "Just access," my sister murmured like a spell. I looked at the clock on the stove. 6:43. Micah turned in his sleep and the hoodie sleeve drifted. I set a glass of water by him. The hall light made a thin path to the front door. My leather binder waited where I left it. Tab Trust peeking out like a blue tongue. The doorbell rang 2 measured taps, then 1. Not a neighbor. Not a friend. Every conversation in the kitchen paused. Like a song skipping? I wiped my hands, picked up the binder, and walked toward the sound I'd planned for. I opened the door with the binder in my hand. A woman in a rain-dark coat stood on the porch holding a leather folio. Calm eyes, no perfume. "I'm Mara Collins," she said. "Evergreen Trust and Fiduciary. Alina, I'm sorry for your loss." My mother-in-law appeared over my shoulder like a shadow. "We're in the middle of family time," she said. Ms. Collins met her gaze. "Then this is the right time," she replied softly. "May we sit where everyone can hear?" We moved to the dining table. Paper plates, red cups, casserole steam. She set the folio down, clicked a pen, and placed a small digital recorder beside it. "For clarity," she said, pressing a button. 6:46 p.m. meeting regarding the Micah Hart Education and Care Trust. My brother-in-law laughed once. "A recorder. This is a house, not a boardroom." "It's a fiduciary meeting," Ms. Collins said, "and grief makes details slippery. The recording protects everyone." She opened the folio and slid a single page to the center. "The trust is irrevocable. It has a spendthrift clause. That means no relative, creditor, or well-meaning manager can touch principal or redirect funds. Distributions are limited to Micah's needs: housing stability, childcare, medical counseling, Education. A separate 529 exists. Evergreen is the successor owner. My mother-in-law's smile thinned. We're not creditors. We're family. Family are protected by the same clause, Ms. Collins said. From pressure, expectation, and future fights. There are no stipends for adults. No borrowing, no reimbursements for things that are not MICA. My father leaned forward, Captain, in his chair. Roof needs a patch. Winter's coming. The trust won't pay for this household's roof unless a leak threatens MICA's safety, Ms. Collins said. If that happens, submit the contractor estimate to me, not Alina. We pay vendors directly. No cash changes hands. Cups shifted. Someone turned the music down another notch. Panzess Collins continued, steady. There is also a no-contest provision in Elena's will. If anyone files to interfere with this trust, or harasses its beneficiaries or trustee, that person forfeits any future bequests from Elena's estate. I prefer not to use that clause. I'd like your signatures instead. She placed 3 sheets on the table, acknowledgement of non-beneficiary status and no solicitation. Agreement. My sister-in-law pushed her chair back. This is insulting. This is protection, Ms. Collins said. For MICA, and for you from yourselves at your worst moments. The house had gone quiet enough to hear the humidifier humming down the hall. MICA stirred, then sighed, and settled, his face in the sleeve and eyes. Collins turned one more tab. 2 housekeeping notes. 1. All accounts are under 2-factor authorization. Only Alina and Evergreen have tokens. 2. I have already notified the bank to deny any branch or phone request that doesn't match our credentials. If someone tries, I get an alert, and the attempt is logged. As if it had been queued, her phone buzzed once. She glanced at it, then laid it face up. Alert. Branch inquiry denied. 6:47 p.m. Westwood Branch. My brother-in-law's face changed by degrees. I was just asking a question, he said. Good, Ms. Collins replied evenly. Then you'll have no trouble signing that you won't ask again. He looked at my father. My father looked at the pen like it might bite. The doorbell rang 3 quick taps this time. I stood. Ms. Collins held up a small smile. That's for me, she said. I asked the notary to stop by so no one can say later we didn't mean what we signed. I opened the door. A woman in a yellow raincoat lifted a leather stamp from her bag. Nora, mobile notary, she said. I'll be brief. We made room at the end of the table. Ms. Collins slid the signature lines toward my in-laws with the patience of a nurse. You may refuse, she said, and I'll serve you letters by mail instead. But at 7 p.m., a scheduled transfer runs to MICA's daycare and pediatric clinic regardless. My mother-in-law's smile cracked. You'd put this on paper. At his father's repast. I'm putting MICA on paper, I said, voice low, so none of us can move him around again. The stove clock clicked to Y58. Ms. Collins rested her pen tip on the line and waited. Like a metronome in the hallway. The leather binders blew trust. Tab peered out like a small flag. The party tried to pretend it was still a party. The table knew better. The stove ticked to 6:59. The room held its breath the way kitchens do before something boils over. Penis Collins set her pen down like a metronome stopping. You can sign, she said quietly, or you can refuse. Either way, at 7 o'clock, the trust moves as scheduled. My brother-in-law smirked at my father like boys on a dare. My mother-in-law folded her hands as if the pose itself were a signature. 7:00. Ms. Collins's phone chimed 3 times, crisp as a gavel. She turned the screen so the table could see. Transfer 1 cleared Sunshine, daycare MICA tuition, month, in advance, closing parenthesis, transfer, to cleared Northside Pediatrics balance paid. Well visits scheduled. Transfer 3 cleared Oakview Counseling family grief sessions. First, for prepaid. My own phone buzzed. Sunshine Daycare, payment received. We'll hold Mika's spot and extend pickup grace this week. Hugs a second text from the clinic. Appointment confirmed. Nurse Jenna says hi. Casserole steam was the only thing that moved. The money is doing its job, Ms. Collins said, level, and it cannot be repurposed for someone's car, roof, or vacation. Not today. Not ever. My father stared at the recorder, then at the pen, then at me. You brought a stranger into my house, he said. I brought a boundary, I said. The notary, Nora, lifted her stamp. State your full name, and sign, or decline, she said. Neutral as a traffic light, Dot. My mother-in-law's smile cracked at the edges. This is humiliating. This is legal, Miss Collins said. Humiliation is optional. Hearts hammer loud in quiet rooms. Micah sighed in his sleep and nestled deeper into his father's hoodie. The sound reset my spine. I slid my binder open to a tab I hadn't used yet. Wishes, tucked inside, a sealed letter in my husband's hand. Dated 3 weeks before the diagnosis changed everything. I broke the seal and set the page on the table. Read it, my father said. Almost a dare. I read, Alina, if I can't say this in person, I made mistakes with money. I also made repairs. Every policy I have goes to you and Micah. Not to my parents. Not to my brother. If they pressure you, call Evergreen. I named Ms. Collins because she doesn't blink when people are ugly. Please take Micah to the Science Museum on rainy days, and let him keep the little robot he wants, even if it's loud. Tell him I love him 3 times. Matt. The letter blurred, then cleared. When I lifted my eyes, even the Bluetooth speaker had the sense to stay quiet. My brother-in-law found his voice first. He didn't mean he meant exactly that, I said. I slid 2 pages toward him, and my sign the acknowledgement and the or don't. But if you don't, Ms. Collins mails a formal notice. And I follow with a no contact regarding Micah's finances. Ms. Collins nodded. Attempts to access the trust will be treated as harassment. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't bother turning it this time. Alert, online banking login, denied not. 7:03 p.m. She lifted an eyebrow. Not unkind, please stop trying. Color rose in my mother-in-law's face. She picked up the pen. Fine, she said, each letter pressed too hard. My brother-in-law signed after a pause that pretended to be thinking. Nora stamped, smooth and quick. Paper clicked into place. The room exhaled and notched. Ms. Collins flipped to one more tab in her folio. One more item, she said. This is separate from the main trust. The Micah Small Grants account goes live tonight. It's $500 microgrants for single parents at the clinic, diapers, copays, gas. Anonymous in his name. You're giving money away? My father snapped. I'm putting a little good into a night that wants to be worse. I said. Ms. Collins's phone rang in, no number with the clinic's exchange. She tapped speaker. A social worker's voice filled the kitchen, warm and tired. This is Rita, at Northside. The Ellison grant just hit. We put a mom in an Uber with a nebulizer. She asked me to tell you her toddler loves trucks. Something soft broke loose in my chest. Across the room, my sister's mouth wobbled and then steadied. The doorbell rang again. Not measured this time, firm, official. Ms. Collins looked at the clock. That will be Mr. Hale from Court Services, she said. I asked him to bring 2 copies of a standing no trespass letter for financial harassment. In case you're pressured after tonight. My mother-in-law stared at the table. My brother-in-law stared at the door. I stood, the binder under my palm, and walked toward the bell I'd invited. Behind me, the notary capped her stamp. The recorder's red light stayed on. The stove clock turned to 7:05. The party had found its volume. The house was about to find its quiet. I opened the door. A man in a grey jacket flashed a county badge. Mr. Hale, Court Services, he said, voice steady. Ms. Collins asked me to document a boundary meeting. My condolences. We sat again at the dining table, paper plates, red cups, steamed grief. Mr. Hale set a thin folder down and clicked a pen. Ms. Collins tapped her recorder. 7:06 p.m. continuing, she said. Mr. Hale slid 2 forms forward. See Sandersist regarding solicitation of trust assets, he said. and a no trespass letter you can present to law enforcement if pressure continues at your home, school, or work. You are not required to sign, but refusal doesn't prevent enforcement. My mother-in-law gave a brittle smile. We're family. You can't file paperwork against family. You can draw a line for a child, he said. That's what this is. Ms. Collins's phone buzzed on cue. She glanced at it, then put it face up. Alert, 529 custodian change request, denied no 707p.m. My brother-in-law stared at the centerpiece. I was testing the system, he muttered. The system works, Ms. Collins said. Please stop testing it at banks. The Bluetooth speaker in the corner tried to kick a chorus back to life. I pressed the button. Silence stood taller. Here's what happens if this continues, Mr. Hale said, calm as a list. First, a warning letter. Next, a protection order for financial harassment. If that's violated, police get involved. That's messy. None of you want messy tonight. My father's hand tightened on the arm of his chair. You brought the county into my house. I brought air, I said quietly. For Micah, in the hall, Micah shifted under Matt's hoodie and let out a sleep-heavy sigh. My chest loosened a notch. Mr. Hale opened his folder. I also have a noise complaint from your neighbor, he said to the room. It will be closed out if we wrap this within 15 minutes and move guests along. Your choice. My mother-in-law smoothed her skirt. You'd empty a home after a service. I'd protect a child's home after a service, he said. Ms. Collins slid fresh copies of the acknowledgement and no solicitation across the wood. Nora, the notary, uncapped her stamp like it was a small, patient gavel. State your names, she said. Sign or decline. My brother-in-law's pen hovered, then dropped to the line. Stamp. My mother-in-law stared at the page, mouth tight. We helped plan the service, she whispered. We brought food. You did, I said. And you also reached for a 5-year-old's account between songs. She blinked. The pen moved. Stamped. Mr. Hale added 2 more sheets, plain and blunt. Notice of no trespass re financial harassment, he said, sliding one to me and one to Ms. Collins. If you tell me now you want the house clear by 7:30, I'll supervise that exit and document compliance. No drama, no raised voices. We'll log it and leave. I looked at the hallway the hoodie, the small sleeping curve of my son. Yes, I said. Clear the house by 7:30. Copy, he said, as if choreographed. Ms. Collins's phone chimed once more. Transfer for Ready Micah Small Grants Clinic, queued 7:15. She didn't announce it. She just met my eyes. I nodded. Let the good go where it was going. From the porch came the quick click of a camera. The neighbor across the street stood on her steps, arms folded, phone low, watchful, not gloating. The party that had tried to be a party felt itself become a line. Mr. Hale stood and addressed the room, in a voice made for church basements and courtrooms. Thank you for coming to honor Matt, he said. The family is concluding the gathering at 7:30. Please finish your food, collect your coats, and exit calmly through the front. If you need a moment with Alina, ask. Do not ask about money. Do not touch the child, a murmur. Chairs scraped. The Bluetooth speaker stayed off. My father rose and tucked his program into his pocket with a soldier's precision. We'll visit next week, he said to me, half promise, half warning. With notice, I said. By text. During daylight, he nodded once, a man who understood orders even when he didn't like them. My mother-in-law glanced toward the couch, toward Micah, toward the hoodie that still smelled like her son, her face folded, then held. He was our boy first, she said, almost to herself. He's my boy now, I answered, gentle and firm. And he's okay. Nora capped her stamp. Ms. Collins clicked her recorder. Off. Mr. Hale checked the time, 7:14, and moved toward the door to guide the slow tide out. I turned the hallway lamp too low and set a glass of water by Micah's hand. Behind me, footsteps began to organize themselves into goodbye, and at the threshold, a shadow paused, then stepped back in. The shadow at the threshold was my mother-in-law. Her hands were empty, except for a small blue lunchbox with cartoon rockets mats from 2nd grade. She held it like evidence of better days. "I forgot to leave this," she said, voice thin. "For Micah." Mr. Hale moved a half step forward, not blocking, just being a line. Ms. Collins clicked her recorder back on. 7:16 p.m. You can set it on the table, I said. 2 minutes. No money talk. She nodded, walked to the table, and placed the lunchbox beside the signed forms. Her eyes found the hoodie on the couch and softened like a bruise. "He liked marshmallow sandwiches in this," she murmured. "Micah likes strawberries," I said. "We'll fill it tomorrow." She swallowed. "Can we still see him?" "With notice," I said. "In daylight. 2 Saturdays a month. Library or park. Written confirmation. If anyone asks about his account, visits pause." I kept my voice even. "Boundaries aren't punishment. They're rails." She nodded once. "The way people do when the words are more coat than comfort." "I hear you," she said. "I'll try to be good at rails." "Me too," I said. She touched the hoodie sleeve, then left without reaching for anything else. Mr. Hale noted the time. The door closed gently, like it had learned. By 7:28. The kitchen was plate stacked, counters wiped, casseroles lidded. Guests moved in low murmurs toward the front. Mr. Hale stood at the door, easing the tide. "Thanks for coming," he said on loop, same tone for every face. "Good night." At 7:30, the house cleared. The neighbor across the street texted a quick noise complaint cancelled. "Good night." Mr. Hale handed me a card with a case number in careful print. "If anyone forgets the line," he said, "call. We'll remember it with you." Nora packed her stamp. "You did well," she said simply, and slipped into the rain. Ms. Collins closed her folio. Her phone chimed once, then again. She turned it toward me. "Transfer for cleared, Micah Small Grants Clinic." A second message popped up. A photo attached from a number tagged Rita Northside. A toddler with a nebulizer mask giving a wobbly thumbs up next to a toy dump truck. "Breathing easier. Tell the mom thank you." "Let it go where it's going," Ms. Collins said. The gentlest I'd heard her. I laughed once without meaning to. The sound of air finding its way back. "Tell Rita, you're the one who doesn't blink when people are ugly." "I'll wear it like a badge," she said. She slid a thin packet across the table. Follow-up, a 1-page summary of tonight. A calendar invite for a 30-day review, and a list of counselors that take Saturday slots. Rest when you can. Grief has night hours. We walked to the door. "You locked this down," she added. "Not to keep people out, to keep one little person safe inside." When she left, the house settled. The stove clock turned 7:41. The Bluetooth speaker stayed off. The humidifier hummed its small weather in the hall. I tucked the signed acknowledgements, no solicitations and no trespass, into the binder behind the blue trust tab. Paper in place, spine steady. I set the lunchbox on the counter and wrote, "Micah Thursday, strawberries." Note on a sticky. On the couch, Micah stirred and blinked at me from inside the hoodie. "Mom," he whispered, voice thick with sleep. "Is the party over?" "It is," I said, smoothing his hair. "We're keeping the quiet. Did Daddy say goodnight?" he asked. I kissed his forehead once, twice, 3 times. "He told us how," I said. "Science museum on rainy days. Robot that makes noise. We'll be loud there." He smiled into the sleeve and drifted. I pulled a blanket over both of us and watched the porch light make its small circle on the wet steps. My phone buzzed one last time. Sunshine Daycare. "We'll see Micah Monday. We'll save him the blue mat." I set the phone to Do Not Disturb and wrote tomorrow on a fresh page. Call Rita back. Pick up strawberries. Museum. If it rains, email Ms. Collins. Thanks, breathe. They threw a house party after the service and reached for my son's account. Little did they know the door they were reaching for had already moved into signatures, clauses, transfers that ran on time, and a quiet that didn't ask permission. I clicked off the porch light. The house stayed soft and still. Some nights end with noise. Ours ended with a plan. And the plan held.